But I think we'll make a start, everybody. It's nice to see you all. Thanks ever so much for joining us this morning. Hi, Jessica. Um, really nice to have your company. And if you haven't been to one of these calls for a little while, or it's maybe even a first call for a while, my name's Tom Spate, and I work for the Cumbria Arts and Culture Network. And we're here to share the love for the arts and culture sector across the county and also inspire you by hearing people doing amazing, great things. And I suspect this morning is going to be a good example of that. And a chance to champion the sector to those that need to be championed too as well. And we record all these calls, so you can always watch them back and tell people who can't make them to watch them if they want to. And there's captions on Zoom for those that want to use captions as well. We are in the middle of quite a sort of important piece of work for CACN over the next couple of years. Well, I say in the middle, we just started. We mentioned this last week, but for people who weren't here last week, Kate Parry, who is the director of CACN. Kate, do you want to just mention the See It to Be It project, which is just starting to get out of the starting blocks? Just in a nutshell, what's that all about?
Well, we've received funding from Arts Council to the tune of 175,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually only half of the total project cost. And we are busy pulling together the remainder of the funding package for a 2.5 year project that is about encouraging and enabling more young people to pursue a viable and valued career in the creative industries. We're working with lots and lots of cultural organisations across the county because there's a very, very clear sense that it is currently far too difficult for young people to access creative careers in Cumbria at the moment. And at the same time, it's also very difficult for organisations to recruit at the moment. So we're trying to sort of address both of those things by working together and joining up dots successfully. We're trying to do three things. The first of which is to pull together all the amazing things that are already happening to help young people develop creative careers under the See It to Be It banner so that young people know where to look for information and opportunities. We're also going to make sure that cultural creative careers are much better represented in schools and colleges so that young people know what a creative career can actually look like and just what a lot of different options there are. And the third thing we're going to do is join forces to create as many new paid opportunities for artists, creatives, and people working in cultural organisations of one kind or another, so that it is actually possible to take one step and then another towards a viable creative career. So it's
Okay.
very, very exciting. It's also a tiny bit overwhelming. So we're just taking it one step at a time to draw down the money and make sure that we've got our own systems in order within Cumbria Arts and Culture Network. And then as the summer goes on, we will take off and get cracking.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kate. And you'll see some noise about that, hopefully in the press and various places next week. So if you can share that around, that would be fantastic, because part of this is just trying to get people to be aware that the project is starting. Before, without any further ado, though, I want to cross to live to Carlisle Cricket Ground, where the lovely Pete Hunter has just put his thumbs up. And we're just going to, Pete, what are you doing there? And why are all those people wearing yellow high-vis jackets?
Okay, welcome live from Carlisle Cricket Ground. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. This is the dig organised by Uncovering Roman Carlisle. There's a massive Roman house here, building here about 2000 CE, I think it's called now, rather than AD, where Emperor Severus Septimius came and stayed, we believe. So the people in yellow are volunteers. The people in orange are experienced trained archaeologists. And here we're digging out different areas of the site, obviously. My camera work's going to be very chonky because I've got the phone next to my head, but hopefully this will make some sense to you. Lady with the orange trousers and a blue shirt there, the two pillars next to her are the corner of what I think is a temple that spread. Can you see my hand? Yeah, it
Yes.
spread across the site there. This here, let's see if I can Yeah. There's a Roman road going through the site with these big curbstones on the edge.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
that makes sense. Down here, where this lady's digging, is what we think is a plunge pool from a bathhouse with a little plug hole in it or a drain in it. And this is the corner of the bathhouse. Of course, everything that comes out has to be put somewhere. So it's all put in these big piles around the site. And we have metal detectorists. Oh, a barrower, got to be careful not to stand on anybody. Metal detectorists working those sites, working these piles, finding coins and things. I want to show you something down here. Gosh, I feel like Tony Robinson. Show you something down here that was really interesting that came up yesterday. Oh, it's now been covered up. Okay. Where you can see, think you can see the black plastic containers. Alison, yes. Could you see around you? The black plastic containers there. Can you see
Yes.
that? Yep.
Yes.
That's a row of Samian ware that's been broken Samian ware that's been placed in a row for some reason in Roman times, and we don't know why. Sorry, you can't actually see the Samian ware there, but I'll show you some inside.
That's the orange stuff, isn't it?
That's the orange stuff that comes from France. And
Yep.
interestingly to me, there's a guy here. If we get a bit of Samian ware with the maker's stamp on it, he can tell you who made it in France and when, which is, amazing skills. Here we're going to be doing some stone carving, which I'm going to be doing in a few minutes under there. And going through to the finance room. Let's see.
I think I saw a man with a gun a minute ago, but maybe it was a metal detector.
It was a metal detector, yeah.
Okay.
Here's some of the finds. So you get washed and then stored here. So this is Samian ware. This is orange stuff with patterns on it.
Wow.
Nice.
So what you're picking up there was deposited there for some reason, sort of 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, lost or thrown away.
Yeah. Wow.
What else? I think this is plaster from the walls. Mhm.
One of the big.
Sorry about this. Lots of people here. Oh, here's a nice bit of Samian ware. Look
Oh,
at
it's
this.
beautiful. Don't drop that.
It's got hair on it then.
That's amazing. Wow.
It's also got something I don't want to show on the on a public forum on there as well, because the Romans were a bit like that. Here's some Roman glass.
Wow. And did you find any? Did you, Pete?
Yeah.
Did you find any of this at all? Have you found anything while you've been digging?
Yes, I found a lead seal, which these are just the everyday finds.
Yeah.
I'll quickly, hopefully.
And there's the cricket ground.
Special finds. Oh, there's the cricket ground there. So flooded 2017.
Yeah.
And they said, got to build a new market, a new pavilion on higher ground. But in that process, they found a Roman fort, a Roman building. So we're going to have to dig this up first.
Yeah, it's quite a story, isn't it?
Yeah, I will be two more minutes and then we can go.
Okay.
Okay, so this is.
I think people are excited by this. This is like Cumbrian heritage and culture and art in action before our very eyes.
So this is the special finds room, and these are some of the. Excuse me. Let's put it on the right side. Where are they? Yeah. Some of the finds that have to be logged because they might be insignificant. Let's see if I've got one of mine here. Look at that. That's a big pin of some sort, big metal pin.
Wow.
This appears to be a worked stone cannonball. Well, it wouldn't be a Roman cannonball, but a worked stone ball of some sort, decorative. This in here, which I can't touch, looks like it's made of bronze. Where is it? I can't see it on the camera. There you go.
Yeah.
Which hopefully will be cleaned and we'll find out what it is.
Yeah.
This maybe the head of a key of some sort.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, everything of any significance gets taken away, which is why I can't find the piece of Samianware that I found yesterday, which had somebody's name scratched into it.
Wow, how exciting. That must have been an exciting feeling for you, Pete.
Yeah, I was very calm, actually. I said, oh, look, it's been scratched. Oh,
well, listen, thank you very much. Thank you very much for showing us both outdoors and inside.
Quick one, Tom. Look, this is a bit of a... Can you see the scratching on that? It's a piece of a gaming board, like a drafts board or a chess board that's been made. So there you go.
That's beautiful. Thank you ever so much. That's been fascinating.
All right. Sorry to crash your call.
No, you're quite all right. You're very welcome.
Coming down later as well, so look out for that on the telly.
I hope you have a good day there today, Pete, because I think the dig's coming to an end, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the second to last day today. So last day tomorrow. If anybody wants to come down and have a look, you get a free guided tour, and see what's eventually been found.
Fantastic. And you did, by the way, you're a very good tour guide. Tony Robinson should be quaking in his archaeological boots. So thank you ever so much.
I've had training. That's all right.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good meeting. Bye.
There goes Pete. That was exciting. Wow. I thought about that dig for a while because it's been going on for a few years, hasn't it? But extraordinary to see what they're finding there. And I expect, Jane at Stenhouse Roman Museum will be particularly excited by what Pete was showing there. Right. Well, this morning we're going to hear from Adam Sutherland, Director of Grizedale Arts, who has just been very clever and successful in winning an award. And we'll talk about that a bit more. And Adam will talk about what he's going to do with the project that he's got the money to do. And it's really, really interesting and fantastic achievement as well. So we'll find out about that shortly. And we'll also just find out about the next CACN Big Meet, which we'll tell you about at the end of this call, which is a chance for us all to get together somewhere in Cumbria and talk about something important as well as network and have some nice teas and coffees and biscuits and sandwiches and that sort of thing as well. So going to tell you that before 10:30 as well. But before we carry on, Kate, do you want to just remind us about this piece of work that CACN are doing to do with young people and music?
Yes, so we have been working with Cumbria Music Hub and Young Sounds, who are a national organisation there to encourage more young people to develop careers in the music industry. And week before last, there was an event at the brewery in Kendal, which was the first of two events designed to enthuse and encourage young people. The second event we're organising, and it's online, it's a little webinar for young people aged 14 to 18. So if you know any young people aged 14 to 18 who might be interested in a future career in the music industry in any capacity, and of any kind, then please do encourage them to join us. It's free. You can sign up on our website, no doubt. There it is already. The link is in chat. Here is Emma Salmon, who is a West Cumbrian singer. She will be one of the three people who are on the lineup. The other is Joe Davies, who will just play you a tiny clip of in a minute. He is a conductor. And the third is Lauren Gilmore, who is a young music producer. So we're trying to come at it from lots of different angles, and we really would like and appreciate it if you could share the information. Leslie at Northwest Music Academy, please do make sure that the young people you work with know about it in particular. And here is Joe Davies from a drafty field. I think he said Anglesey. Anyway, let's hear him.
Hello everyone, my name's Joe Davis and I'm here at Anglesey, overlooking this lovely view. I'm just about to do a rehearsal with the incredible UK Proms in the Park Orchestra, which is very exciting and very looking forward to it. I'm just jumping on to talk about a very exciting event I'm part of on 10th of July, where I will be interviewed by Tom, talking about all things music industry and working in this brilliant and slightly bizarre field and growing up in Cumbria and how I went from there. And yeah, just really looking forward to talking to my good friend Tom about all that. And please do come and join us if you can. That's 10th of July. all part of a very exciting event run by the brilliant Patsy Gillen. So yes, do join us. Thank you.
Yeah, so as you said, Patsy Gillam is the Young Sounds Connector for Cumbria, and we've been working with Patsy over the last few months to organise this event. So she and Tom will be co-hosting the event. And now all we need is some young people, which is, I can tell you, easier said than done. So please do help. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much, Kate. Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because Joe's an amazing. In fact, Joe's coming on next week to talk about the Cumbria Opera Group's Cumbria season of work across, and they get right across Cumbria. They do this every other year. So if you're interested in opera, or actually if you're just interested in some amazing cultural creativity going on in Cumbria, because they are impressive people, come along next week and Joe will tell us all about that. But for now, we're going to cross to Grizedale Arts and the lovely Adam Sutherland. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Ampersand Award. I'm trying not to steal your thunder here, Adam, but I'm just going to give people an introduction to what this is about. And then Amy will pull up your slides and we'll go through the project. But anyway, this is what I got from the Ampersand website. In 2019, we established the Ampersand Foundation Award, a biennial UK prize that aims to recognise and reward curatorial excellence, vision and risk-taking. The award provides funding for organisations to realise their most ambitious exhibition or visual art project, with the winner receiving £150,000. Our goal is to enable curators and directors to realise projects they have long envisaged but could not undertake due to funding pressures and constraints. Proposals are unrestricted regarding subject matter, and we welcome innovative ideas, particularly those that are bold and unconventional, for all types of visual art projects across any art period. The selection process involves a shortlist of 5 proposals, from which one is chosen. The winner receives £125,000 to realise their proposed project, along with an additional £25,000 to produce a related publication. And they have up to 3 years to deliver the project. And the remaining shortlisted organisations each receive £5,000 to cover the costs of preparing their proposals. Eligibility for the award is currently limited to curators working in organisations that are members of Plus Tate, a network of 45 UK visual arts organisations facilitated by Tate. So that's the blurb, and I'm very pleased to say we have the winner in our midst this morning, and that's Adam Sutherland at Grizedale Arts. So Adam, I'm going to hand over the airwaves to you, as they say, to tell us a bit more about who you are, what you do, and what your proposal was, and how it must feel to be the winner of this. Over to you. If you just want to come off mute.
Myself.
There we go. Yeah. Okay.
Good start. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Adam, and I've been the director at Grizedale Arts since 1999, which is a long time to build up a project, an idea for a project, which is in effect what this proposal was. Is a kind of, I wanted to set in context the history of Grizedale within the context of other art movements and art, what I tend to refer to as art moments in the Lake District and that kind of the immediate area around it, but with reference to wider notion, I guess, of what I would see as rural thinking, and that idea that perhaps a rural mindset and a rural creative history, cultural history, is distinctly different from an urban one. So yeah, my own background is, I was brought up on a farm, and I couldn't wait to leave, as is common with most people who are brought up on farms. And then at some point in my mid-30s, I couldn't wait to get back. So it's a kind of, the project kind of refers to my own personal life history to some extent. I had a particularly unusual and interesting education, which was both a curse and a privilege. I went to a school called Dartington Hall, which was one of the kind of early progressive schools. I went there in the 60s, and it had lost its way by that time. But nevertheless, it was kind of an amazing experience. Anyway, to get on to talking about the project, titled Reform Life, which is a kind of play on obviously life reform, which is the German arts and crafts movement, but also kind of reform life. I don't know if anybody remembers the Catherine Hamnet series of T-shirts in the 80s. Might show my age kind of reference, but anyway. Yeah, so the idea is this: identifying the rural as an alternative strand of art history, and that is built on the evolution of my own thinking, really, over the course of my career. When I first left London in '95, I moved to the Highlands of Scotland as an extreme escape from the pressures of living at, well, what I found to be quite a hostile place to operate in London. I moved to Inverness, and I started thinking about my own rural background and about rural culture, and it's been a puzzle to me. When I first moved to Grizedale, we did a book for about 5 years in called Adding Complexity to Confusion, which obviously suggests that the rural is a confused cultural place, as in there seem to be loads of different things happening that are all kind of crashing into each other, that don't necessarily seem to make any logical sense. So the idea of that we were working with at Grizedale at that time was in effect kind of making that even muddier, making it even more confusing by adding even more cross-cultural references and projects. And so it was an interesting period. But over the years, so this mind map is a small section from a very long drawing that slide's showing, and I think perhaps you get the complexity and confusion reference there. Bear in mind, it's actually 3 meters long, this drawing, so this is just a little chunk of it showing the old and new Grizedale, and actually was done for a retrospective of projects that we've done in Japan, which was an exhibition in Japan. Maybe just move on to the next slide. Yeah, so just sort of what's kind of an interesting moment in Grizedale's recent history was doing an exhibition for the commercial gallery Hauser and Wirth, which is kind of the biggest arts commercial gallery in the world now. Quite ambitious, and they about 5 years ago they opened or maybe more now, 6 or 7 years ago, they opened a farmhouse in Somerset called Bruton. And in 2000 and something or other, 15, 16, 17, somewhere middle, just before COVID, they asked us to do an exhibition about art in rural context. And there's some images from it. What was interesting about it as a show, it was kind of a survey looking at rural art movements through history in Britain. And kind of referencing what Hauser and Wirth were doing to some extent. But what was interesting about it is they put it on in January and February, and as absolutely typical with all major institutions that ever approach us to do exhibitions and projects, they always ask if we can do a growing project, and they always put it in January and February. And it's like, and nobody gets for a second that isn't the growing season. So we did do a growing project in this one, but it was hydroponic, and a group from Chicago that we'd been working with. Yeah, but what was interesting about it is that 44,000 people went through that exhibition in January and February, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Bruton, it's pretty difficult to get to. There was something like 40 pieces in the media about it. Quite mixed reviews. A lot of the more urban journalists found it very disturbing and chaotic. But what I kind of took from it, particularly from the audience, but to a large extent, was that for people who came from a rural background, it was just like, this is our stuff. Yeah, this is the stuff that surrounds us. This kind of weird collision of car culture and agriculture and heritage and all the stuff that we all deal with, and try and make sense of all the time. And for urban people, it was like, this is madness. Where's the trajectory? Why can't I see a clear linear trajectory through all this? Anyway, to the next slide. I should speed up a bit, actually, otherwise we're going to be here all night. I'll try and focus a bit more on things that are kind of to do with Cumbria. So yeah, so the idea of the roots of ruralism was, again, thinking about what's happened in Cumbria, and particularly the idea of culture coming from the outside and moving in. And that is kind of, I personally always imagined culture evolved in the centre, in London and in major cities. And one of the drives for me to get out of the countryside was to go where culture is happening, to go to the hot spots where it's all alive. But actually, when you look at the history of culture, it actually is located and often starts and is generated in quite periphery, marginal places. And historically, Christianity, for example, starts on kind of small islands off the coast of Britain and works its way in. And that's so that's kind of quite evident in Cumbria, where you have Furness Abbey, but before that there was an abbey which there's an image of in the bottom corner, which was the Sauvignac order's only abbey at Calder Hall, now kind of Sellafield, which is still there, and it's kind of an amazing ruin, but not accessible to the public. So, but if you're nice and knock on the door of the house there, they let you go and have a walk around it. And then the other one, the two other images there. One is Parkermore, which is the sister farm of Lawson Park, which we developed as an off-grid residency base about 15 years ago, and we believe, was a Sauvignac settlement. So the Sauvignac order, particularly interestingly, were a reforming order, and were their big idea was cultivating marginal land, with the sort of notion of changing earthly hell into paradise, into heavenly paradise. So they deliberately targeted difficult to cultivate areas. So Parkermore and Lawson Park, which is Grizedale's sort of headquarters, were both Sauvignac settlements originally. And the other rather curious image is a hermitage built in the far north of Scotland by the brother of Gilbert Scott of the Tate, who had a bit of a breakdown, went to this incredibly remote place and spent a year building that strange structure, slept in it one night, and then considered the project complete. But very little is known about him or it, although he ought to be reasonably easy to access. I think maybe it's debatable as to whether it was him or not. So a bit of a mysterious building. Anyway, next slide. Yeah, so by the way, this is the pitch that I did for the Ampersand committee, which was made up of quite an interesting collection of people, including Mark Wallinger and Alistair Suki. So yeah, perhaps interesting here is that identifying the parameters under which I understand rural culture as working. So this, I think, idea that Grizedale started to sort of engage with around 2000 of what's now known as socially engaged practice, but that the social interaction and networking that happens in rural places. And I have increasingly realized that this is nearly all facilitated by women within these bigger movements, through endless letter writing and connecting of people and bringing people together. So it's a kind of fascinating and slightly hidden history. It is being explored now a bit more, and there have been a few kind of notable discussions around that and exhibitions. So another idea is that the cultural hierarchy doesn't really exist in rural places, that it's dissolved, and then you can sit cooking and gardening and other things that aren't necessarily understood as high culture, as on a par with a whole range of cultural activity. And I think that's actually common to rural places all over the world, because Grizedale's worked in a lot of other countries in rural places. And you sort of find the same idea that there isn't a hierarchy that's so evident, partly because there isn't a market for art. And then the perennial learning through close observation of nature, which goes back forever. I mean, that's just always been a parameter within rural culture. Making the most of what is there, which I think is a really pertinent theme of the moment, about how do we use the resources we have to hand, and how is that more, how important that is now in terms of kind of how resources are managed and used globally. Reinventing historical and traditional precedents alongside contemporary thinking. It's kind of self-evident. I think that's kind of what art programs are trying to do all the time. That's certainly what Grizedale tries to do. And living and working within communities which are not necessarily embracing of change. And so that's, again, something that's quite common when you look back historically at all these movements, the arts and crafts movement. I mean, Ruskin wasn't popular when he lived in the valley here, despite the fact that you might see him as doing a lot of great and beneficial things. There was a kind of suspicion, I guess, is probably, it's not full on his hostility, it's just a suspicion. And the same's happening in Cotswolds, it's in all over St Ives, all these places where these cultural movements have happened. The embracing an eclectic range of people, practice, media, and interests. That's, again, fairly self-evident. And then some slightly negative things, a tendency to move towards nationalism, or what I think of as a negative anyway, and the kind of, some of the problems around kind of folk culture and so on, and non-capitalist ethos kind of relates to the hierarchy. So we move on to the next slide. That's a bit of just thrown in there just because it gives an interesting image. That's the view from Lawson Park, and we're about to re-erect a billboard that we put up 25 years ago. As part of this project, we'll re-erect the billboard, and this is a Millet painting, obviously. It's interesting in that he couldn't sell it during his lifetime. He made some adjustments to it. He changed what is thought to have been a coffin between the two figures, or certainly a box, and he put a church into the background. And he was then able to sell it, very small amount of money. He actually lied about how much he sold it for because he was so embarrassed at the price. And 20 years after that sale, it was the most expensive artwork in the world. So it kind of went through this sort of transformation, similar to the transformation he made of the grim reality of rural life to a kind of bucolic fantasy of rural life. So I'm kind of interested in it as a transitional image, and one that was very influential. That image is is a national image for France. You see it everywhere in schoolrooms, in education facilities, public buildings. But he was also very influential on people like Van Gogh and Dali. Interestingly, two of the most popular artists in the world were both obsessed with it. I guess Millet is one of the more popular artists as well, but not quite in the same way that Van Gogh and Dali, who are kind of popularist in a way. Anyway, next slide. So yeah, to talk about specifically about the project, there's 3 parts to it. And the first part, which we've already started, is 7 projects running through the Crake Valley. And actually, I mean, I'm fairly loose with the term valley. So starting at our base at the Farmer's Arms in Lowick Green at the bottom of the Crake Valley, and then a whole series of projects running up through the valley, but going as far as the Mertz Barn at Langdale, which is a project we're involved with at the moment. So yeah, let's move on to the next slide. So one of the projects is the idea of siting, creating in effect a kind of a rural version of the blue plaque scheme. So you'd be familiar in cities with blue plaques on the walls saying so and so lived here. So what we're thinking of doing is using the trig point concept, which I expect most people are familiar with. It was a series of what looked like plinths, basically, for sculptures, set, I think there were 20,000 of them, set across Britain in the 1930s and 40s in order to map more accurately Britain by triangulating it. So this is the kind of equivalent, but doing it culturally. So how do we map culture across the country through by highlighting the kind of connectedness? So that this is a big theme really for the whole program, is that all this stuff that appears chaotic is actually all connected. And so we're looking at citing at least 7 of these trig points throughout the valley. And on the whole, we're highlighting the women figures in the history. Some well known, some not at all known. But also, again, with this notion of like a dissolved hierarchy, you'll see Audrey Grizedale in there, who worked in the Coniston Co-op for 40 years, and who we've done lots of things with over the years, but is a fantastic example of somebody who's connected a fairly small network of people involved in creative activity in the broadest sense, but a whole series of different people. So the example one there is of Hildy Goldschmidt, who was an artist connected with Schutter's Merzbahn. So we're really open to other suggestions. I'm sure there are people who've got, like, if you've got a sort of hero figure who you feel fits that kind of bill of being somebody that connected things up and made a kind of sense of rural culture.
Quite a nice eclectic list you've got there already, Adam, isn't it? Love to see Christine McVean there.
Yeah. Some more popular figures. But yeah, Harriet Martineau, I mean, they're when you start looking into these people, there's they're amazing history there. And many of these people, Harriet Martineau, Eliza Linton, they were major figures in their own time. And for one reason or another, they've been kind of forgotten. They've been very much forgotten. And I think that's a lot to do with having their priorities around networking and connecting, and a different set of values that haven't translated into the market. Let's call it that, for want of a better word. Okay, go to the next slide. So that's the Trig Points is one of the commissions, which there'll be probably up to 10, I think, in the end, throughout the valley and slightly further afield. We might do some in Germany as well, because I'm quite interested in connecting up the history of the Lake District and the rural context with the similar history that happens in Germany, with the Romantic movement, the arts and crafts movement, also rural located. Then the 2 commissions at the Merzbahn. So one of those is setting up a print studio there which will be open access. From our perspective, we're interested in an anonymous facility for producing polemics of some sort.
I don't understand what that means, Adam. What does that mean?
Critical voice, print, anonymous print. I mean, nothing you do is anonymous now because everything's digital. But actually, the traditional letterpress type print facility is potentially anonymous. So we're going to set up a whole series of poster sites, and so you could print a poster and then choose a site to put it in. So we're basically encouraging people. We'll commission some people to do them as well, to make comment on locations, and those locations will relate.
For those that don't know enough about the Merzbahn, just in a nutshell, what's the Merzbahn?
Merzbahn is a garden developed by Harry Pierce, who's in that photo, sitting next to Hildy Goldschmidt, the rather glamorously woman on the end. And sitting next to him, so Harry Pierce worked for Mawson, was a landscape architect gardener, and at Merzbahn he was trying to create a kind of integrated with nature, very different from what he was doing with Mawson, which was very structured, but actually loads of the Mawson kind of structuring and formal planting sort of fed in. So weirdly, I kind of almost see the gardens there as a kind of Merz in themselves, and there's lots of very peculiar juxtapositions, and there is a kind of it should all be returned to wild nature, but actually he did. There's quite a lot of material around his concept. Anyway, it's quite an interesting concept. I don't think it's conscious that he then invited Kurt Schwitters to. Well, I don't think he invited, actually. He rented Kurt Schwitters a barn in which he could make a contemporary piece of art, which was commissioned by MoMA in New York. I think reputedly in that photograph, the check from MoMA is in Kurt Schwitter's pocket.
Kurt Schwitter's the chap sitting on the bench?
Yeah. Leaning forward. Yeah. So, and then one of those people is Gwyneth Allborn-Davies, who's an exhibition on in Grasmere. Where is it? On Allen Bank, which you go and see. And it's her print press that I believe there's some discussions with bringing her print press back to the Merzbahn, which is where she operated from for a while. So there was a little group of people around Schwitter's cultural group, I guess, who were, I imagine, had some ideas of kind of an art commune along the lines of Monte Verita in Switzerland, which some of them have been involved with.
Got about 5 minutes left, Adam.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to ask any questions as well. So
yeah, next one. So this is the renovation of a barn and the establishment of an 11-month-long residency program. Next one. Building of a nature house, which won't look like that. That's just an existing one. Be a community build project at the Farmers Arms to generate power and to act as an open space for markets and so on. And then we're just starting now on the foundations for a project called the Black Shed, which is a 2-bedroom house, very low cost, self-build, whole series of workshops in how to build a house for £20,000 as an idea for a sort of housing solution for rural places, which obviously are quite significant. And then there's a small pavilion that we're doing for the Architectural Heritage Fund. Okay, next slide. Next slide. That's Lawson Park, by the way, and that's a scan of the Merzbahn. The third part, well, let's say it's the second part, is as a publication, which we want to set in place. As I was saying, Grizedale's 30-year or 50-year history, it'll be the 50th anniversary of Grizedale in 2027. We want to set that in the context of the other art movements in the Lake District. So things like the arts and crafts movement, the romantic movement, and all the bits and pieces in between. Okay, so next slide. It's nice to be able to do a publication, actually a printed one, and to have some earmarked, and the money has to go to that. So it's quite kind of a nice thing to do. And then the third part of the exhibition is a survey show, which looks at the histories of different cultural movements. So Romanticism, with particular reference to what was happening in Germany, and actually some of the connections between the UK and Germany. So Thomas Carlyle, for example, and Jane Carlyle, very importantly, and their influence in Germany, actually bigger than their influence in the UK. Next slide. And the arts and crafts movement, again, the kind of crossover, Ruskin and all of the experiments, and the Coniston experiment that they enacted here, which turned into the Keswick School of Industrial Design, and lots of other interesting moments, alongside some of the really fascinating stuff that was happening in Germany at the same time, which did tend towards more towards dance, but there's a few people there, Mary Wigman. And so, next slide. That picture in the middle with a woman holding the gun is the Irish Rising. It's oh God, I've forgotten her name. Anyway, then moving on to modernism and the avant-garde, and again connecting up with Germany, Schwitters, the kind of alternative history that's again been forgotten, things like the Lowland School, which is known as the Women's Bauhaus, which has recently kind of been rediscovered. There's some amazing and fascinating material that is kind of part of rediscovering and part of this bigger connecting up of these bigger networks. And the next one. So this then gets into where Grizedale comes in, and the transition from land art to public art, and then from public art to social engagement, and kind of what was happening at the time, and the things that were influential. And for example, I think punk was quite a big influence on that shift in the art world, and particularly for rural places, the idea of making do with what you had, which was a big part of the ethos of punk.
Okay.
There's one more slide, and that's
all
it.
right. Yep.
And then useful art, which was something that Grizedale has sort of majored in, and Alistair Hudson, some people may know, has gone on to promote the idea of useful art internationally. And then finally, the final slide actually is what I refer to as integrated practice, but is also often referred to as one-to-one scale or invisible practice, which is where the art is fully integrated into society and performs its function for everybody in everyday life.
That's great, Adam. Thank you. What What a project. I can see why it's going to take 3 years to deliver as well. It's a
Yeah.
big piece of work there. Kathy just saying Constance Spry may be a candidate for one of the female trig point statues, like
Yeah. I
lived in
love Constance.
Barrow,
Yeah.
her flower arrangements used hedgerow flowers, which was a radical change. Also set up domestic science school. Antique Roses, one named after her by David Austin. Kate,
And
I think you were going to ask a question to Adam as well. Just come off mute, Kate.
Apologies. Yeah, if that's all right, Adam. I guess just thinking about the people that are part of the network, as well as organisations. There are lots of individual creatives, and many of whom will work in, have a particular interest in the rural, and I
yeah.
guess might be thinking, well, what's in it for Cumbrian artists who have an interest in what you're doing? How can they be involved or benefit from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much all the projects I mean, I've just highlighted very briefly what they are, but they're all, particularly the commissions, have this sort of inclusive element. So, for example, the house building project, there's a whole program of building workshops and pottery workshops, and because with the house, we're making everything from the light switches through to the skirting boards, whatever. So there's a huge amount of opportunity, I think, in each project. The print project I briefly mentioned again, it's about
Yeah.
creating an open access workshop space. I think probably there's less in the exhibitions side of it. That is perhaps more of a curatorial role to try and. I mean, we've got a small team lined up of people to work on that, but I think even within the exhibition side of it, we'd be really interested to hear from people who've got something to contribute and want to get involved.
And how should people contact you? Because I really think there will be. It sounds like a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're really not brilliant at PR. Mostly our stuff goes out through Instagram, so lots of opportunities go through Instagram. But you can just email me, adam@grizedale.org.
Okay.
Uh,
Let's put that in the chat then, Amy. But we'd love it, obviously, if you could keep in touch yourself and Maria about where the opportunities lie for people across this network, because it
yeah,
clearly is a huge thing. So please do keep in touch.
yeah, there's lots of things.
Slightly more prosaically, Adam, was it a surprise for you to win this, or were you expecting it?
I was quite surprised. It's always a bit of an outside chance when from a rural context, like everybody else on the shortlist is pretty urban, and it normally goes to an urban organisation. I mean, interestingly, Grizedale won the Prudential Prize in 1990, which was again totally at odds with the kind of the way things were at that time, and that was quite a remarkable achievement. That was 100,000 in 1990. It was a lot
That's
of money.
before your time, right?
Yeah, long before my time.
Yeah.
That was for the sort of Goldsworthy, David Nash land art movement, and was
Yeah.
largely run actually by Northern Arts at that time, by the Arts Council. In fact, actually illustrating a very different way that the Arts Council used to work. That was very hands-on. They pretty much curated old Grizedale.
Well, I think if we, if the network and CACN can, as Kate has alluded to, help you get messages out, call outs, and just keeping engaged with progress of the project as well. I think just managing a project like this is going to be an interesting exercise in itself, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do kind of work in a relatively hand-to-mouth way, like one project in the next project and so on. So what would be, particularly with the commissions in the Valley, it would be great if we could come and just, when one's coming up, just do literally 5 minutes. This is what's
Absolutely.
happening now. This is what we're looking for. This is how you can get involved and so on.
I think that'd be perfect. And I know Maria, who's on this call, works with you closely at Grizedale as well. So we'll stay in
Yeah.
contact. But I just wanted to say as well, congratulations on getting the award. It's a massive achievement. You know, Grizedale is one of those sort of jewels in the crown of the Cumbrian arts and cultural sector. You sort of keep yourselves to yourselves to some extent, as you said. Your PR is you've got your mind on other
Tried
things.
really hard not to, Tom, but unfortunately, we're not very effective.
No, it's great, and I love the sort of depth, and I think what's someone's put here, remarkable project. Derek's put remarkable project, so revealing about what otherwise might remain unknown or misunderstood. I think that's a key to it for me. I've learned loads already just listening to you for the last half hour about the
Yeah.
Cumbrian connections to all these different things that I have a sense of, I have an inkling of, but didn't realise there was a sort of Cumbrian or rural connection to these things. So I look forward just to learning stuff from the project as well. And I say congratulations on achieving it. And this is just the start of the mountain to climb to deliver it, I guess. But a great feeling.
Yeah, no, it's great. We're really pleased about it. I mean, I was really thrilled to get there.
Smashing. Well,
Yeah,
thank you ever so much.
really great.
And thank you for sharing with us this morning as well.
Great, thank you.
All right, 21 minutes past 10. Just one final thing for me, and that is the next big meet for the Cumbria Arts and Culture Network, which is we try and do this about twice a year, will be in Barrow at Artgene on September the 18th. So that's Artgene in Barrow. If you've not been to Artgene in Barrow, it's a magnificent building right in the heart of Barrow. So it's going to be September the 18th. It will be in the morning, probably a 10 o'clock start. It will be reflecting on the three catalyst artists that you might recall over the last 12 months or so have been working on the project that was put together by CACN, Artgene, the University of Cumbria, and the now stopped LEP, the Local Enterprise Partnership, funding for three artists for a year to make some really ambitious work. So we're going to find out what they've delivered and also focusing on ambition as well. That date is also in Barrow, an important date because in the evening of that same day, so you might want to make a day of it in Barrow, Cook Studios reopens. This is, of course, where Signal is based. Is Liz on the call? Is that Liz iPhone? Is that Liz Critchley, I wonder?
Yes, it's me. Hello.
Liz, give us 30 seconds. I know it's unfair. 30 seconds on what's going to happen on September the 18th at Signal.
Yeah, really exciting day, actually, especially with the big meet as well. So just to say that we're opening our new building. Well, it's old building that's been, we've had some capital money from Arts Council and it's going to open that day, and we're going to open up the downstairs so you'll be able to come along. And we've also got Chris Killip exhibition on as well in the gallery. So please come along after the big meet, make a day of it in Barrow. Come see us.
Great. Thank you, Liz. So put September the 18th in your diary for the moment. So big meet in the morning. Opportunity to see Cook Studios where Signal is based in the late afternoon and evening as well, and some really interesting stories to hear about those catalyst artists, all of whom will be there, all of whom ready to tell their tales about what they've been up to. Cockermouth Live this weekend as well. Moving on, thank you, Kate, for that. That's occupying some of my mind as well. Lots of stuff going on here in Cockermouth. So if you fancy a nice day out, come to Cockermouth for either Saturday or Sunday or the whole weekend. Why not? Thank you ever so much to Adam for his great talk this morning. Really, really interesting. I was glued to that. And thanks also to Kate for sharing the information about the Young Musicians meeting, which is the 10th of July online in the evening. Next week, we're going to hear from Joe Davis, who we saw that brief film of, who runs the Cumbria Opera Group for the Cumbria Opera Festival, which takes place this summer. And we're also going to hear about the Above Eden Artists Trail, which is something which is taking place focused on the Eden Valley. So we're going to hear about that as well. So Joe and Above the Eden Artist Trail next week. Thanks, everybody. I'm 2 minutes late. Sorry about that. Have a great weekend. Nice to see you all. See you all again soon.
Bye, folks. Thanks.
And of course, sorry, the Roman tour at the start of the call was amazing as well.